the cage and the creature. The air was cold and still. A soft hum echoed around her, and the floor beneath her feet glowed with a strange blue light. She opened her eyes slowly, blinking in fear. She wasn't in the jungle anymore. She wasn't on her ship. She was trapped. Glass walls surrounded her. She pressed her hand against one side, solid, smooth, unbreakable. Her heart pounded. Her name was Alira, and she was from the Zinari race. And now, she was inside a human cage. Outside the cage stood a tall figure, broad shoulders, pale skin, short brown hair, a human male. He didn't speak. He just watched. Alira backed away, breathing fast. She remembered the stories. Humans were dangerous. They ate alien flesh. They captured anything they didn't understand. They were monsters, her people said. And now she was alone with one. The human moved. She tensed. He stepped closer to the glass, looking at her with unreadable eyes. He raised one hand, slow, calm, and placed it against the glass. She didn't move. Then, something strange happened. The door of the cage hissed open. He didn't come in. Instead, he set something down just inside the door, a plate. On it were slices of orange fruit shining under the light. He placed the plate carefully, then stepped back and waited. Alira's eyes narrowed. Was it a trap? Poison? She didn't trust him. But her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since the crash. Still, she stayed frozen. The human sat down near the wall. Silent, peaceful. His hands rested on his knees and he looked at her, but not with anger, not with hunger. He looked curious. The minutes passed. She finally took one step forward, then another. Her hand trembled as she picked up a slice of fruit. She smelled it. Sweet. Familiar. She took a bite. Nothing happened. She finished the rest quickly. When she looked up, he was still there, watching her carefully but not moving. She dropped the plate. It clattered on the floor. He stood and walked away. Later, he returned with a blanket. He didn't speak. He just placed it on a bench in the corner of her cage. She didn't say thank you. She didn't trust him. But when the temperature dropped, she wrapped herself in it. That night, she didn't sleep. She watched him through the glass. He was working on something, some kind of machine, wires and lights spread across a table. She tried to understand. Was it a weapon? A translator? She couldn't tell. The next morning, he came again. This time, no fruit. Instead, he carried a strange device. Small, round, with blinking lights. He held it up to her cage. Then he pressed a button. A soft voice spoke inside her head. "Can you hear me?" She jumped. He pointed at the device, then at himself, then back at her. "My name is Dax," the voice continued. "You crashed. I found you. You were hurt." Alira didn't answer. She just stared at him. He tried again. "You're not my prisoner. The door is open. You can leave." But she didn't believe him. No creature like him could be kind. Not after what she'd been told. She looked toward the open cage door. Outside, the landscape was dry and rocky. Strange plants swayed in the wind. 2 suns hung low in the sky. Her ship was gone. Her people were gone. And this human, this Dax, was the only thing standing between her and the wild world outside. Suddenly, he stood up and turned away. He walked to a table and picked up a knife. She froze. Here it comes, she thought. This is it. But instead of coming toward her, he grabbed a thick fruit from the shelf. He sliced it, wiped the blade, and sat down to eat. No attack. No threats. Just breakfast. She didn't understand him. And that made her even more afraid. Was he playing a long game? Or was he truly different from what she believed? As the sun set again, she found herself wondering, not how to escape, but who this human really was. And for the first time, she asked herself something dangerous. What if her people were wrong? The silent kindness Elira didn't sleep the next night either. The stars outside the glass cage shifted slowly. The twin moons moved across the alien sky, casting strange shadows through the transparent walls. But inside, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Dax the human was asleep in a corner of his shelter. His weapon belt was hanging near his bed, within easy reach. His boots were off. He looked harmless in that moment. Peaceful. Elira sat on the edge of the bench, the blanket still wrapped around her shoulders. Her eyes didn't leave him. She had watched him for hours now, and not once had he acted like a monster. But she couldn't forget the stories. The burning images of humans raiding colonies, stealing technology, eating prisoners. Her brother had vanished near human territory. And now here she was, alive, unhurt, confused. When morning came, Dax opened his eyes and met her stare. He gave a nod, quiet and calm, then stood and left the room. This was her chance. The cage door had stayed open since the day before. He wasn't even guarding her. No force fields, no cuffs, nothing. Elira stood. She took slow steps toward the open door. She looked around the empty shelter, the strange technology, the blinking machines, the maps, and the exit. Outside, the rocky desert waited. She ran. Her legs burned with every step, but she didn't stop. Sand flew behind her and sharp rocks cut her feet. She didn't care. She needed distance, any distance, from the confusing creature who had been kind instead of cruel. She ran until her body gave up. She fell face first into a dry patch of cracked soil. The pain came next, sharp and fast, her leg, twisted, maybe broken. Her breathing became shallow. And then, the world went dark. When she woke again, it was night, and Dax was kneeling beside her. His eyes weren't angry. They were worried. He held a glowing device in one hand, scanning her leg. She tried to pull away, but the pain shot up through her bones. "No," she whispered. He ignored the word. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small bottle. He poured a thick gel onto her wound. It stung like fire. She screamed. He held her shoulder gently, not tight, just enough to keep her steady. The pain faded. Her body stopped shaking. He didn't speak. Not a single word, but she watched his face. He was focused. Calm. Almost. Kind. Elira cried, not from the pain, but from the confusion. She had escaped him. She had run, and still, he came to help her. He carried her back to the shelter. He could have dropped her. He could have left her for dead. But he didn't. He laid her down on the bench and wrapped her leg with a soft band. He brought water. He brought food. And still, he said nothing. For the first time, she wanted him to speak, wanted to hear something real, something human. But Dax was silent, not because he didn't care, but because he didn't want to scare her. The translator device blinked, then spoke. "You're safe. Rest." She turned her head away. "Why?" she finally whispered. "Why didn't you leave me?" The voice paused. "You needed help. But I ran. I could have died." He looked at her, then tapped the side of the device. "Everyone deserves another chance." Those words echoed in her mind like thunder. What kind of human said things like that? Her people told her that humans believed in conquest, not kindness. Yet here he was, treating her like someone who mattered. Over the next few days, she didn't try to escape again. Her leg healed slowly. Dax made sure she ate. He never tried to touch her unless it was for treatment. Every night he slept near the cage, but never inside it, always giving her space. One morning, she saw something different, a picture. It was drawn on paper, handmade, rough. It showed a young alien, girl holding a flower. Beside her stood a human boy. They were smiling. She picked it up and stared. "Who is this?" she asked. The translator whispered, "My sister and her friend." Before the war. Elira looked up at him. Dax's eyes were full of quiet sadness. He had lost someone too. And, maybe, just maybe, he didn't want to lose anyone else. One night, a loud alarm shook the shelter. Lights flashed. Dax jumped up, grabbed his weapon, and checked the monitor. Ships. Incoming. They were hers. Her people. They had found her. Dax turned to her, face pale. They think I hurt you. She knew it was true. The Zainari wouldn't ask questions. They would destroy everything. She looked at him, then at the drawing in her hand, and for the first time she made a choice. Then we stopped them. Together. The memory translator, the morning came with wind and heat. The alien suns had risen high, burning the red sky above the rocky world. But inside Dax's shelter, the air was tense and quiet. Elira sat near the wall, her healing leg wrapped in new cloth. Her hands trembled. Not from pain, but from the decision she had made last night. She had chosen to help the human. It still felt impossible. She was Zainari. He was human. Their species had been enemies for decades. And yet, she had told him they would stop the incoming attack together, because in her heart, something had changed, and she feared it was too late. Dax worked fast. He checked the radar. Small dots moved closer across the screen. Zainari ships, not large. Enough for war, but enough to destroy this shelter and anyone near it. Elira spoke softly. They'll land in 2 hours. Maybe less. Dax nodded but didn't look at her. He was building something. Small pieces, blinking lights, wires connecting to a silver disc. What is that? She asked. He finally met her eyes. A translator, he said. We already have one. Not like this, he replied. This one speaks through memory. She didn't understand at first. But when Dax finished the device, he placed it on the table and gestured for her to come closer. Touch it, he said. She hesitated, then slowly reached out. The moment her fingers touched the cold surface, a wave of light filled the room. Images exploded in the air, holograms made of thought and memory. She gasped. The first memory was hers. She was a child, watching her parents leave for battle. They never returned. The elders told her they had died fighting humans. The room around her shook with the echo of her grief. But then the memory shifted. Now Dax stood in the memory space. A younger version of him. Holding his sister's hand, they were laughing. Then came the sound of ships, alien ships. Zainari soldiers crashing into their village. Fire, screaming. His sister vanished in the smoke. Elira covered her mouth. This was the truth? Both sides had suffered. Both sides had told lies. Both sides had lost too much. The translator device faded, and the room went silent. She turned to Dax. Why show me this? He looked tired. Because they'll never believe you with just words. They need to see. Like you did. She nodded slowly. He was right. The Zainari leaders would never trust a human, but maybe memories could reach them. Can this show live memories? Yes, he said. But it must be linked directly to the mind. Yours and mine. That's dangerous, she whispered. So is war, he replied. An hour passed. They packed supplies. Dax prepared a second translator device. This one for projection. It would show their shared memories to the Zainari officers. Elira watched him work. The human who had once scared her now moved with purpose. Not anger, not hate, but hope. She felt it too, deep down. A small light that maybe, just maybe, peace was possible. Then the warning siren screamed. They were here. Outside the shelter, 3 Zainari ships hovered over the canyon, sleek, silver, armed. Soldiers in black armor marched toward the shelter, weapons drawn. Elira stepped out first. Her leg still hurt, but she stood tall. Stand down, one commander shouted. You are not safe. The human must be eliminated. He saved me, she shouted back. Brainwashed. He tricked you. The soldiers aimed their rifles. Behind her, Dax stepped into view. He held no weapons, only the projector. Gasps came from the line of soldiers. He's unarmed, someone whispered. It's a trap, another growled. Elira raised her hands. Wait, let us show you the truth. The commander narrowed his eyes. You have one chance. Dax pressed the button. The memory translator activated. In the air above them, the memories unfolded. First her crash, then his rescue, then the silent kindness, then the escape and injury. The soldiers watched silently as the scenes played out, and then came the pain, the memories of loss. Her parents, his sister, the betrayal, the fear, the humanity. Some soldiers lowered their weapons. Others looked shaken. The commander took a step forward. His voice was tight. Why should we believe this? Elira stepped closer. Because it's not a story. It's my mind, and his, our pain, our truth. The commander looked at Dax, then asked, Do you hate us? Dax's reply was soft. No, I just want it to end. The silence was heavy. Then, the commander lowered his weapon. Let them speak to the council. As the ships took off with them on board, Elira looked out the window. The planet below faded. The stars ahead were full of danger, but also something else. A chance. She looked at Dax and said, Do you think they'll listen? He didn't smile, but his voice was steady. We'll make them. Voices in the sky. The Zainari warship was silent inside, but Elira's heart was not. As she sat across from Dax in the steel chamber of the ship, her fingers curled tightly around the memory projector. The soft hum of the engines was the only sound. But she knew soon louder voices would rise. Voices of judgment, fear, and pride. And they would all be pointed at him. They landed on Orbit Station 9, the nearest Zainari command post. A ring-shaped structure above the planet's sky, with giant beams and cold metal halls. Soldiers escorted them in tight formation, Elira in front, Dax behind her, his wrists bound, though he didn't resist. Every hallway whispered suspicion. Every alien they passed looked at Elira like she had gone mad, like she had betrayed her kind. They were led into the Hall of Minds, a circular chamber where 10 High Council members stood waiting behind an energy barrier. A golden crest of the Zainari people floated above them, flickering. The Council Prime, an old female named High Seer Elmari, raised her voice. You bring a human here, she said coldly, into our council. This is an act of recklessness. Elira stepped forward. No, it is an act of truth. Elmari's eyes narrowed. Then speak your truth. But know this. If you lie, the punishment is death. Elira swallowed her fear and activated the memory projector. The air shimmered, but Elmari raised a hand. We've seen enough illusions. We require the truth directly from the human's mind. Elira turned. Dax was silent. Then he nodded once. Guards stepped in and placed a neural band around his head. Lights blinked, the chamber darkened, and then his memories spilled into the air. At first the room was quiet. They saw Dax's childhood, his sister, the alien attack, his pain. Then they saw the present, Elira in the cage, her fear, his kindness, her escape, her injury, his rescue, their shared confusion and the moment they made a choice to stand together. Some council members turned their heads away, uncomfortable. Others whispered to one another. A few looked stunned. Then came the final memory. The moment Elira stood in front of her people and said the words, He saved me. Elmari's voice was sharp. Cut the stream. The lights faded. The silence. Returned. Elmari stared at Dax. Why help her? You owe us nothing, Dax answered through the translator. Because she needed help. And because I saw something in her eyes that I lost in myself. Hope. A younger council member stepped forward. This changes everything. Our enemies may not be monsters. Or, Elmari snapped, this is only one human, an exception. Maybe, Dax said, but one exception can become a reason. Outside the chamber, another danger grew. In deep space, a Zenari war fleet was already moving. They had not heard Alira's story. They only knew that their scout had gone missing and a human was involved. Their orders were simple: attack Earth's nearest colony. The countdown to war had already started. Inside the station, a second alarm blared, flashing red. The floor trembled. Elmari's eyes widened. Incoming transmission. From the fleet. A guard stepped forward, whispering. They've reached the human outer zone, weapons hot. No return signal from Earthside. Alira's voice rose. You must stop them. Elmari's expression hardened. Too late. We cannot recall them in time. Alira turned to Dax. They'll kill innocent humans. Not if. We reach them first, he said. We need a long-range transmitter. Elmari hesitated. We don't have a diplomatic link with their military. I do, Dax replied, but I'll need access to your systems. After a long pause, Elmari slowly nodded. They raced to the control tower. Alira supported Dax as he limped, his wrists still red from the restraints. The engineers watched in disbelief as a human touched Zenari command tech. Dax entered a code into a frequency booster. A screen lit up. A young human officer appeared, confused, shocked. Sergeant Dax? How? Listen to me, Dax said. Tell Central Command to stand down. Do not fire. I'm in Zenari space, with one of their own. She's vouching for peace. Sir, they've already launched counter-targeting protocols. Cancel them. Now. Copy that, sir. Relaying orders. The line cut. Back in the council chamber, tension filled every breath. Then, a second alert sounded. Green light. The fleet had stopped. No weapons fired. No lives lost. Elmari sat back, speechless. Alira looked around. The silence was louder than any battle. Then someone began to clap. A counselor, young, bold, stepped forward and clapped his hands. Then another. Then the chamber filled with the sound. Not celebration, but acknowledgement. A beginning. That night, Alira stood on the edge of a glass walkway. The stars below the station burned bright. Dax walked up beside her. We did it, she said. Just the first step, he replied. Peace is a road, not a door. She smiled. Then let's walk it together. And in the skies above, the war that could have ended millions was replaced by something no one expected. Hope. A deal with fire. The stars never stopped burning, but tonight something was different. On board Orbit Station 9, the atmosphere was no longer filled with fear, but with tension. Thick, electric tension that wrapped around every corridor. Even though the Zenari fleet had paused its attack, not everyone agreed with the Council's decision. Peace was dangerous, and someone wanted it dead. Alira paced the quiet corridor, her boots echoing on the cold floor. Behind her, Dax followed, watching, every shadow. We're not safe, Dax said softly. The Council may have listened, but not everyone wants peace. She nodded. There are zealots, those who still see humans as enemies. They won't stop until they see blood. Mine, Dax replied. She didn't deny it. They reached the private chamber where the High Council had prepared a temporary resting area for them. 2 guards waited outside. Alira recognized one, Commander Naxon, a loyalist to High Seer Elmari. He bowed slightly. We've detected movement inside the restricted deck. Unknown life signals. They do not match Zainari or human code. Saboteurs, Alira asked. Or assassins, Naxon said grimly. Dax stepped forward. What's on that deck? Life support systems, engines, and your memory translator. Alira's eyes widened. They're trying to destroy the proof. No, Dax said. They're trying to kill the message before it spreads. Without waiting, they followed Naxon to the deck. Red lights pulsed along the walls. Security drones floated overhead. Something was wrong. Too quiet. Too clean. Suddenly, boom. Small explosion rocked the hallway. Flames burst from a nearby junction. The fire suppression system activated, but too slowly. A shadow moved through the smoke. Tall, armored, and not Zenari. "Get down!" Dax shouted. A plasma shot whizzed past them. Naxon returned fire, striking the wall behind the attacker. "They're not one of ours," Naxon growled. "Mercenary, hired." "By who?" Illyra asked, pulling Dax behind a wall. "Someone who wants war." The attacker retreated into the engine corridor. Smoke spread fast. The oxygen levels started to drop. "We have to go after him," Dax said. "You can't," Illyra argued. "You're still injured." "Then give me your fire rod." She paused and handed it over. They moved like a single unit. Illyra guiding, Dax protecting, Naxon flanking. As they turned a corner, another blast shook the floor. Fire spilled out of a control room. Inside, the memory translator glowed, still intact, but so was the assassin. He stood over the device, blade drawn. "Get away from it," Illyra shouted. The figure turned. His helmet hissed open, revealing a scarred alien face. Not Zenari, not human, a Vark. They were known for being weapon dealers, mercenaries for hire, loyal only to credits and chaos. "You don't belong here," Dax said, aiming the fire rod. The Vark laughed. "Neither do you." He threw a detonator. Naxon lunged, catching it mid-air and hurling it down a vent. It exploded below. Smoke burst up. Chaos. Dax fired. The Vark dodged and slashed with his blade. Sparks flew. Illyra jumped in, swinging a steel bar she had grabbed from the floor. It connected with the Vark's arm. He roared, falling back. Then Dax fired again, this time hitting the Vark in the shoulder. The attacker crashed to the floor. Alarms blared louder. Backup arrived. The Vark was restrained, dragged away, but not before he hissed one last warning. "There are more of us. Everywhere. You can't stop what's coming." Naxon spat. "Cowards never stop talking." Illyra turned to Dax. "Are you all right?" He was bleeding from his arm, panting hard but alive. "Yeah, but that translator's nearly fried." She looked at the device. Half melted. Memory strands flickering weakly. "Can we fix it?" Dax nodded. "But we'll need help. Real help." That evening, the High Council reconvened. Elmari was furious. "An attack inside our command station? This proves peace will only bring danger." Illyra slammed her hand on the table. "No. It proves war already brought danger into our home." She looked at each council member in turn. "If we don't fight this together, if we let fear decide for us, then we've already lost." Elmari stayed silent, but others listened. Finally, the young counselor from before stood. "Then let's do something that's never been done." "What do you propose?" Elmari asked. "A summit, with the humans. Here." Gasps. "Madness," one counselor whispered. "Or evolution," another said. Elmari closed her eyes, then opened them slowly. "If we do this, there will be risks. Assassins, political collapse." Illyra stepped forward. "And if we don't, war will return. Worse than before." Elmari stared at Dax, then back at Illyra. "Fine. We'll open the gate." 3 days later, a human ship entered Zainari space. For the first time in history, not to fight, but to talk. The summit would begin, and so would the most dangerous test of all, trust. Trial of blood and honor, the great chamber of judgment was colder than any room Dax had ever entered. It wasn't the temperature. It was the silence. The kind of silence that could kill long before any weapon. He stood alone at the center of a circular arena deep inside Zenari Capital Station, under a dome made of crystal and memory thread. Above him, thousands of Zainari watched from the observation rings. Many were curious, others were angry, but most were afraid. Afraid of what the human might reveal or destroy. At the front of the arena, the High Council sat elevated behind a curved wall of light. High Seer Elmari stared down at him, her eyes sharp and unreadable, Dax of Earth, she said, voice echoing through the chamber. You stand here not as a prisoner, but as a question. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Elmari raised a hand. Your actions saved a Zenari life, but saving one does not excuse the death of many. Before we decide to trust your words, we must see your truths. She gestured to a machine rising from the floor. The truth cage. Elira rushed forward. No, you can't use that. It's cruel. Elmari didn't blink. And so is war. The truth cage looked like a ring of floating glass with thin energy, wires wrapped around it. It scanned a subject's mind directly, projecting their memories onto the chamber walls. But if a memory was blocked or altered, the mind would be punished. Even our own leaders have never been subjected to this, Elira said. Elmari replied. Then perhaps it is time someone did. Dax didn't move. I'll do it. Elira grabbed his arm. You don't understand. If you hesitate, even in pain, they'll think you're lying. Then I won't hesitate. She saw something in his eyes. Steel. Not anger, not pride, but purpose. Quiet and unstoppable. The guards placed the neural band on Dax's head and led him into the center of the cage. Begin, Elmari commanded. The yow. Machine hummed to life and Dax's memories poured out. First came his childhood, small, peaceful, innocent. A forest planet, a kind mother, a brave sister. Then the burning, Vark mercenaries. Ships crashing, fires swallowing everything. His sister's scream echoing in the smoke, her tiny hand slipping from his grip. Many in the chamber looked away. The next memory came fast, a battlefield. He held a weapon but didn't fire. Instead, he dragged a wounded Zainari from a burning wreck, only for that soldier to stab him in the side. Dax screamed, blood pouring from his uniform as the soldier escaped. The audience gasped. Elmari's jaw tightened. More memories followed, working with human aid missions, saving alien children from collapsed shelters, refusing to take part in retaliatory attacks, being called a traitor by his own command, being forgotten. He was alone in every scene. Then came Elira's memory stream, merged with his, her crash, her cage, his silent kindness, her escape, his rescue, their alliance. The machine trembled. Energy flickered. The cage pressed against his mind. A warning light blinked red. He's hiding something, one counselor said. No, Elira whispered. He's reliving something painful. Elmari raised her hand. Force reveal protocol. Dax screamed as the machine lit up. A new memory burst out, hidden deep. It showed Dax holding a gun to the head of a Zenari child. Gasps, Elira's heart froze. But then, he dropped the gun. He knelt, he cried, he let the child go, and for that he was beaten by his own squad. He was labeled a coward, a traitor, and cast out. The chamber fell into complete silence. Elmari finally stood. Truth confirmed. Pain endured. Judgment passed. Dax collapsed. Guards caught him before he hit the ground. Elira ran to him. He looked up at her, barely conscious. Did it work? She nodded, tears in her eyes. They saw it. All of it. Elmari spoke again. The human has shown more honor than many of our own. Let it be known, this trial ends not in punishment, but in understanding. The crowd stood slowly. Many clapped. Others bowed their heads. But one didn't. Commander Giran, a strict military elder, walked out of the chamber without a word. His face was stone. Hours later, as Dax rested in the healing chamber, Elira stood outside watching the stars shift through the glass dome. Naxon approached her quietly. The people are changing, he said. Some are afraid, others inspired. Good, she replied. We need them to feel something real. But be warned, Naxon added. Giran left the chamber with 6 guards, armed. He didn't approve of the outcome. He's planning something, she said. Yes, and I think he's heading for the summit. The summit. In less than a day, human and Zanari leaders would meet face-to-face for the first time in history. If anything went wrong, it wouldn't just end negotiations, it would reignite the war. Alira stared out at the stars again. Then, we stop him. How? Naxon asked. She turned, eyes fierce. The same way Dax stood in that cage, with truth, pain, and no fear. The choice that changed the stars, the summit chamber, was a masterpiece of both human and Zainari design. Glass floors reflecting the stars below, curved walls etched with alien runes and earth languages side by side, and a single long table where history would either be made or erased in fire. 10 human delegates arrived from the silver diplomatic ship Ascendant Dawn. They were dressed in sleek white uniforms, with black panels carrying the emblem of peace. A broken blade wrapped in olive light. Opposite them stood the Zainari Council, High Seer Elmari, Counselor Thren, and General Naxon. Between the two groups, silence filled the air like a ticking bomb, and above them, hidden in the upper tower, Commander Giran and his 6 loyalists moved like shadows. They wore unmarked armor and carried real weapons, not ceremonial ones. In the lower chamber, Alira and Dax stood just outside the summit room's main gate, watching the meeting begin through a one-way glass wall. Dax was pale, still recovering from the truth cage. A thin medical wrap covered one side of his neck. He had refused full treatment. "I want to be awake," he said. "I need to see this." Alira looked at him, unsure if she should be proud or terrified. Inside, High Seer Elmari raised her hand. "Today we are not enemies," she said. "Today we ask not who fired first, but who dares to put the weapon down first." The human diplomat, Ambassador Kai Morales, replied calmly. "Earth agrees. We didn't come to defend ourselves. We came to understand what we've broken and how to fix it." The chamber stirred. Tension relaxed slightly, but something felt wrong. Alira felt it in her bones. "Something's off," she whispered. Naxon approached, whispering into a comlink. Station security just picked up untagged motion in the upper tower, 10 meters above the summit. Alira's heart froze. "Giran!" They moved fast. Naxon led 2 guards. Alira followed close, guiding Dax, who limped but refused to be left behind. The upper tower was dark. Dust from inactive vents drifted in rays of golden light. They reached the sniper perch just as Giran loaded his rifle. "Stop!" Alira shouted. Giran turned calm and cold. "You're too late," he fired. Everything slowed. The shot tore through the summit dome, shattering the silence. The force field rippled. The human ambassador fell back, blood on his shoulder. Guards panicked, guns rose. Voices screamed. But before anyone fired back, Dax ran forward. He stepped into the open chamber, hands raised high. "Stop." His voice echoed like thunder. "This is what they want. More blood, more fear, more reasons to destroy each other." Elmari stood quickly. "Dax, no." The human. Guards aimed at him, unsure what was happening. Zanari soldiers did the same. "Look at me," Dax shouted. "I came from war. I was taught to hate you. And I almost did." He turned to the Zanari. "But your people saved me." He looked at the humans. "And I saved one of them." Alira stepped beside him. "And he saved me." "If we shoot now," Dax continued, "everything dies with that bullet." He turned his body slightly, revealing his side. "If you want someone to blame, shoot me. I've already survived one war. I won't let you start another." Everyone froze. Commander Giran climbed into view from the upper level, his weapon aimed at Dax. "You call yourself brave," Giran said. "But you're just another fool who trusts liars." "Maybe," Dax replied. "But I'd rather die trusting once than live fearing forever." Giran fired, a flash of movement. Alira leaped in front of Dax, but the shot never hit her. Naxon, the warrior who once refused to trust humans, stepped between them and took the bullet to the chest. He fell, hard. Dax caught him before he hit the Ground. Why? Dax whispered. Naxon smiled weakly. Because you're right. Someone has to stop it. Might as well be me. His eyes closed. Chiron turned to flee, but the council guards swarmed in, tackling him. The sniper rifle was crushed under boot. The rebellion ended with a whisper. Back in the chamber, Ambassador Kai stood again, wounded but alive. Elmari stepped forward. No more games. She looked around the room. This summit is now sealed. No one leaves until we finish what we came to start. Hours passed. The words weren't easy. The pain wasn't ignored. The deaths on both sides were acknowledged, and then, slowly, agreements began. Not peace, but the beginning of it. A week later, Elira stood on the human diplomatic ship, looking out a wide observation window. Earth was a bright dot in the distance. Behind her, Dax walked in, his arm still in a sling. You ready? He asked. No. She smiled. But that never stopped me before. They're naming a star after Naxon, he said. He would have hated that, Elira replied. Yeah, but he earned it. She turned to Dax. So what happens now? He looked out at the stars. We write a new story. Not one of war, but one of choices. She touched his hand. Then let's choose wisely. And somewhere, among stars once filled with fire, two hands, one human, one alien, reached for the same light, and the galaxy began to change, forever.